in a car accident. She was 20, I was 10 at the time. And she had a 4-year-old. And so 3 months from that day, my sister had passed away. And she never awakened from the coma. And so I just remember, it seemed like on the day my sister died, all of my mom's, she had 6 kids, and it felt like all of them had died. I mean, she just checked out. She just couldn't handle the grief. It was her firstborn, and so it was really tough on her. And so I just remember trying to come to grips with in the dark closet and talk to God. And then there was this pond about 4 blocks from our house, and I would make the trek down there too, just to lay in the grass and look up at the clouds and, talk to God. I mean, I had that instinct from the time I was really young. And so that particular day, I was just looking up, and I said, God, are there any good mothers in the world? And so I looked at that very moment, I looked at this pond, and I saw this little duckling over, and it just affirmed to me that there can be good mothers in the world. And from that day, I just said, I'm always going to care for my kids like that. I'm always going to be that way and make sure that, I go get the ones that are the one that is, wandered off. So.
Oh, that is a beautiful, beautiful story. Wow. How old were you when that happened?
10 years old at the time, yeah. Yeah.
So
it's because when my sister passed away, none of us felt like we were able to express grief or cry, because my mom didn't come from a family like that, and it was very inappropriate to show emotions. And so when I was at the funeral, I couldn't figure out why everybody was laughing and having a great time, and my sister was gone, and I just didn't understand it at the time. And so I would just find solace in going in my closet, closing the door.
So what is this the part of what put you on the path to becoming a nurse? I mean, how did you, because it sounds to me like your spirituality is intermingled with the work that you've chosen to do.
Very much so, very much so.
So where did the path lead you?
So Daniel and I collaborated on this book. It's called The Most Radiant Gift, and it's loving thoughts about. So this section is called Why Pediatrics, Another Personal Reflection, written by me. So it says, as a very young child, I remember my father always smiled at me, held me constantly, talked with me, and regarded me favorably. And this isn't in there, but he called me Pigeon. As a little kid, shortened it to Pidge. I look back now and realize that this interaction was the key factor in developing a sense of purpose within me and created an environment that fostered the awareness of how to care for the next human being. Throughout my charming smile, there was a mutual communication reaching into each other's soul that stretched far beyond verbal exchange. It was an understanding that we are connected beings here on earth, designed to care for one another and nurture each other's humanity. When I was 9 years old, my mother and I visited one of her friends who had a 2-month-old baby. Upon our arrival, the friend stated the baby had been inconsolable for a long time. I asked the mother if I could try to soothe her son. She handed him to me. I held him closely and looked into his eyes, and he started cooing and fell asleep in my arms within minutes. The mother was very surprised. And afterwards she frequently asked if I could come over so I could spend time with the baby. Similar situations occurred with different children and infants. From these experiences, I knew that my career would revolve around the children. My nephew came into this world on June 13th, 1977. Yesterday was his birthday. When I went to the hospital, looking at their faces, and knew instantly that I wanted to be a newborn pediatric nurse. I had a strong connection with my nephew and was a second mom to him. After I completed nursing school, I worked as a medical surgical nurse for a few years. After my niece was born in June of 1986, I applied for a position at the hospital and was hired as a newborn nursery nurse. A few years passed, and I took a position in a pediatric practice while remaining in the newborn nursery for 6 more years. I stayed in the pediatric practice full-time and was elated that my dreams had come true. So many wonderful memories occurred through my joy and contentment that comes with two human beings offering each other the best of what life has to give, pure, heartfelt care. After 36 privileged years, the same feeling of care I had as a young child resonates with me now, and I regularly am transported back to the time spent in my father's arms, appreciating that caring for children and their families is really about the kindness and connection offered to others. No laboratory test, procedure, or bandage could possibly measure up to a true exchange with one another. Young children look to us to treasure that spiritual wisdom they are blessed with at birth. For my part, I pray that every parent will appreciate this gift and cherish the time they are given to help expand their child's inner being so they may recognize the humanity within themselves.
So did okay, so you're saying most of this came from your father, but did you have younger siblings? I mean, were you around babies growing up, or were you the youngest?
I had
Around babies, you were around babies when you were little too.
When I was little also, yeah.
So how does this connect with your spirituality? How did these babies, I mean, what do they, I mean, you come here and you listen to what Reverend James and I have to say, but I mean, obviously, and you and Daniel wrote this book together, but there's very obviously something that special that these babies bring that,
my daughter always tells me I'm a baby and animal whisperer. When I see a little baby, I always have this eye contact with them, and every once in a while, it doesn't happen, but for the most part, when I see babies, I just can see into their inner soul. I mean, it's just this amazing thing that I've been blessed with, and I've had kids at the office named, this one little girl named her doll Marcia, and I mean, I've just, had parents come up and tell me how much they appreciate and how much their kids really enjoy being around me. And I think that it's just, I was watching the movie at this retreat. There's like a couple that, a very well-to-do couple that are kind of fighting, and it's a mom with her two kids and her husband, and another couple's getting married, and Wayne Dyer is there being interviewed for a program. And it's kind of, he talks about the baby saying that, God has blessed them with everything they've needed to be cared for in the first 9 months in utero. So why with that? Because I just feel that the babies really do have that gift from God. And I think a lot of times we walk away from it and, don't remember that we were blessed with everything from the beginning, and the children have it. And, just things happen in our life where we get kind of tainted. And so we lose sight of the gift that we were given first. I don't know. I feel God in that presence when I'm looking into their eyes. And it just really warms my heart. And it hasn't changed over all these years. It still happens to this day.
Because the babies need that, because, moms are so, and parents aren't sleeping for the first, 3 years? Yes. But I remember I was in and it's interesting to watch how babies are so open at the very beginning, and then as they kind of get into the world, they start little by little forgetting. And I remember I was in a grocery store one day, and I was looking at this little child, couldn't have been more than 2, but probably younger, and I looked into its eye, it was a boy, his eyes, and whatever he was thinking, I got back from him, he's going, oh my God, she can still hear me.
Yes.
He was absolutely stunned that somebody could hear him.
Yes.
And so you're probably one of those people who really hears babies on the etheric level, the psychic, whatever level you want to call it.
Right.
And they need that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I've been blessed since I was young. I mean, I had a lot of situations in my life too, where, kind of verbal abuse and, molestation as a child and all of that. And I've really been blessed to not let that dampen who I am. I just have always felt that I've had that connection with God, and that He's got me through it. And I mean, just as a child, I felt it really resonate with me.
Well, so do you still work full time? Or you still work with babies?
I still work with the babies. I'm not there quite as much because Daniel's transitioned from, he left his private practice, went to work with another group, and then now he's back at his old office because somebody else took over and they have their own staff. So I'm just there part-time, helping them out.
Do you miss it?
I do miss it. And I do miss working at Sutter, too, because I worked in the newborn nursery there for 10 years, and it was just a really wonderful experience. I've had babies that have, had developmental problems, heart problems, and they Down syndrome. They all deliver that same message, no matter what they're going through.
So one of the difficult parts of this then would be the babies who come in and don't necessarily make it, don't stay.
Yes.
What's that like?
It's very difficult. I mean, I did experience, we've had a few SIDS babies at the office, and also I've experienced it at the hospital, and it's very difficult, but you just know that they're in God's care, but it's just a matter of helping the parents through that. And Daniel's very good with that. He's excellent he has attended a lot of the funerals and has written things for the parents to get them through.
Well, this may sound like a weird question, but is it harder to see a newborn make a transition than it is an older person? I mean, because everybody thinks, well, nobody should die young.
Yes.
And at the same time, it happens more often than we like, but so it's harder.
It is, and you don't like to see. Nobody wants to see a parent lose a child. It's just that's not how life is supposed to be. It just doesn't feel right.
So, but the joy of working with the babies outweighs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, your experiences, are there any particular specific experiences with babies that you've had over the years that really that really taught you something in these very specific instances?
Yeah, I think just at a young age, I took care of my niece and a couple of my nephews, and I think that shaped me as a teenager, really. Just that connection I had with them. I was a second mom to them, and I just assumed that role so naturally. And then I have a friend who's got a son, and I was like a mom to him too. She's got two sons, and both of them, but especially the younger one. I mean, I would leave her house, and I would hear him behind the door screaming for me, just wanting me to come back, and it just made me feel good that I touched his life like that.
So your niece came to live with you after your sister died?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
My sister's ex-husband didn't even know that my sister had passed away for the first 3 years, and so her daughter was living with us, and it was kind of a sad situation because, like I mentioned, my mom had totally checked out as a mom, and I think she was somewhat resentful of my niece. Because she felt like that was part of the reason. My mom went through that stage of if only I'd done this, if only I'd done that. And my niece, the reason my sister ended up in Arizona is because my sister was trying to get away from the baby's father being abusive, and she wanted to start over. So she went and lived with her dad in Arizona. And my mom felt like if she only hadn't had the daughter, that she wouldn't have had to have moved away in the accident. So it was like that thing. If only I hadn't let her go to Arizona. If only, she had just stayed in that evening. And she just went over this story over and over in her mind. And so, it was my niece came to live with us. And I remember when my sister got in the accident, I asked her if Sherry, my niece, was okay. I said, "Is Sherry okay?" And she looked at me and she said, "Who gives a damn about Sherry?" And I felt that. And then also when my sister, after she had been buried, my niece was crying for her mom, 4 years old. And my mom just got really angry, and she said, "Your mother is dead. She's in a box in the ground." And that's what she told this 4-year-old. And I remember at 10 years old, feeling that just pierced my body, and I just couldn't even imagine, what my niece had gone through with that.
So what you did between your connection with babies and young children and your own experiences, it sounds like you decided, it was probably a calling, but you decided that you were going to, whenever you could, make sure that children didn't have that experience.
Yes, I was felt very protective of the children at that point. And my niece, I mean, I mothered her because I didn't feel like my mom was able to do it, so.
Yeah. So really your spiritual path has all along, okay, so let me back up a second. So all during this time, you were like hanging out with the Jehovah's Witnesses for a while, and then you left that. So you really weren't involved in any kind of spiritual community for many years, it sounds like. And then when you guys came to SLC.
Yeah.
So
but I always read spiritual things and tried to maintain, but I just didn't have the direction at the time until my daughter said, hey, let's go to the Unity Church. And I said, okay. That was when it was over by Sutter,
That's a long time
Sutter
ago.
Fort, yeah.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
So your relationship with God, with the Spirit, is pretty much built into you, and you didn't really have to work at that very hard.
No, not at all. That's why I said I was so blessed to just have that connection from a young age. I just thank God regularly that I was able to have that connection. And even going through trials, and there's times when I've felt alone, but I've never felt lonely because I've always felt that connection to God.
Yeah. So what took you into being a surgical nurse for a few years, and why didn't you go straight into nursery? Being a nurse?
Oh, medical surgery. It's really hard to get into the newborn nursery if you don't have some experience. And so people tell me, no, you've got to start out with medical surgical, and then you'll move into the
go through the real trauma before you can work with the baby.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so I did medical surgical, and for a while they had me in the ICU, which I did not like at all. That was when American River Hospital was still up and running. And so when my niece was born in '86, that's when I realized that there's a reason I'm here and I want to be in that nursery now. And I went downstairs and looked at the job board, and there was a job available in the nursery. I just said, okay.
Imagine that.
I know. I said,
Did you have to take extra training for this?
No, not at all. They trained me. And, I did a little bit of pediatrics, too, at American River Hospital, too. So that was helpful for the transition.
Okay, so just going and saying, hey, I have a special connection with babies isn't enough. You still have to have all this other
exactly.
All of this training. Yeah.
Exactly.
So what do you think is the greatest gift that you have received through all of this that you've done with babies? What is the greatest gift you've received?
I think just the feeling inside that I've had has just been a gift. It's just, I just regularly thank God for this connection that I have with the babies and with children. And I think that in itself has been the biggest gift, just that connection.
Do the parents recognize your connection with their children?
Some do. I mean, I've been in line before, maybe the theater or the grocery store or something, and I'll just connect with a baby, and the parent will look at me and say, he really likes you, or she really likes you, and and that happens pretty regularly for me, that people say that to me.
In the medical setting, though, I mean, do you not interact with parents very much in the nursery? Is it just sort of you're there with the babies and then they go?
Yeah, it's not too much interacting with the parents from the nursery, but there are times when I've, as I say, floated out of the nursery and taken care of the moms too, but it was mostly the nursery.
So you've avoided working with adults all these years.
Yeah.
Oh, did I say that out loud?
You did.
So do anybody have any questions for Marcia? Wait for Patty with the microphone. Do you have a microphone, Patty? No, they can't hear you online. They can't hear you screaming.
Marcia,
Yes,
I have
Lynn.
a question. When you're in a store and you maybe see a mother verbally or physically hitting a kid or yelling at a baby because they're frustrated, I'm sure you've come across that.
Yes.
How do you intervene? How do you handle that?
There's been times where I've gone up to them and just kind of reassured the parents and told them, that everything's going to be okay. And, I haven't really had too much where I've seen actual physical abuse, but just you could see the mom's frustration, like something's been going on all day. And I'll just go up and tell them, oh, your baby's so sweet. And, and then I'll hear, well, you haven't been around them all day, and, that kind of thing. But yeah, I just kind of go up and reassure them and try to interact with the baby too and get them to kind of settle down.
And also, as a public health nurse, I went out to a few families where the baby died of SIDS. But in some situations, the parents were so negative to each other. There was
Yes.
physical and verbal abuse that sometimes I feel like maybe the baby wanted to just check out
Yes.
early and come into another body at another time.
Yes.
Do you ever feel that way?
I do, yeah. I have felt that before.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
What's your niece doing for profession? What'd your niece go into?
She actually, she passed away a couple years ago of cancer. She had lung metastasized to the brain, but she was pretty lost because of being raised by my mom.
Yeah.
And so she was heavily drinking and, went from guy to guy and, it was a sad existence. And she just never recovered from that loss of her mom and then coming to live with my mom, who was pretty absent, so at the time. Thank you.
So I think what we're really talking about here, and we're talking about your spiritual journey, but we're also talking about how our words and our actions affect everybody and all of us from the very beginning.
Yes.
From the very beginning, even probably before we're born.
Yeah, definitely.
And so what does that teach us? What are we to take from that, any word can be so hurtful.
Yes.
Or so helpful.
Yes, definitely.
I had an experience in Costco one day. Everybody know how long the lines, how crazy Costco gets, right?
Yes, definitely.
And I was at the checkout counter, and I already had my stuff on the belt. And I looked over, and there was a woman who had 2 children, and he must have been 2 or 3, and she admonished him a little bit, and he was in tears. And she was loading everything onto the belt, people behind her, and that woman stopped, and she walked over, and she knelt down in front of this little boy, and she said, "I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. I need you to do this and this, and I'm really sorry I hurt your feelings, so we need you to do this and that." She took all that time in front of all these people, apologized to him, and then he settled down and went along. And so I waited for her after, I was done first, and I walked over, and she was just finishing checking out, and I said, "I have never seen that in my life. That was amazing, and I really commend you." Because, the pressure of just, you got to move along at Costco. And she took the time, and she was almost in tears by the time I finished talking to her. But she did. In the middle of Costco, that woman knelt down and talked to her child instead of putting her stuff on the belt.
Yeah. And, I think that's really important to get down to a child's level. When you're talking to them, if you could kneel down or even sit and look them in the eyes, it's just so important. Today I was at the mall with my grandson, and I had to return something and grab something, and we had nothing but delays in line, in this line for half an hour in line, and I just got done. I said, I really appreciate you being patient while I'm doing this, and I know it's hard for you, and I appreciate it. And he said, "It's okay, Nammy," and it's all right. And so I think just acknowledging them and letting them know that, I know the situation's tough and we'll get through. Too many times, like Lynn said, you hear these parents screaming at their kids because they're tired and they're upset, and I think it goes a long way just to give them a little word of encouragement and letting them know that you appreciate them being patient.
Yeah, I also was in Kohl's the other day, and there was this couple that came in, and their little toddler was tripping along behind him, and he actually tripped, and he hit his head on that concrete floor, and I heard it. I heard it, and he
that's so
started to cry, and his dad came back and picked him up, and he said, "Don't you cry. Little boys don't cry. They're going to think you're a little girl."
Yes. Oh my gosh.
But he hit his head hard enough, I heard it. And he was just yelling at him. And it was like, so those two extremes. And what I had to do was I just had to walk out the store because I knew there was no way that I could, approach that.
Yes.
But I just thought what that child is hearing, those words, again, we always come back to the words, right? And the
Yes.
feelings. So, do you have something else that you'd like to share with us? from
Yeah,
the
I
book?
have a. Let's see if I can find it real quick.
Let me hold your mic while you're... When are you going to come out with your own book?
my kids keep telling me that. There we go. This is a poem that I wrote for the book that I wanted to share. It's Baby's Prayer at Birth. My hands, my fingers, my feet, my toes, my angelic, beautiful face ready to disclose. My heart, my soul, my message of hope, my entire mighty being to this world I devote. Love me, care for me, enlighten me to stay, the gentle guiding spirit that was born on this new day. Look upon me as a reminder of memories that once were. Please know they're still inside you and allow them to stir. As we walk this life together, children, hand in loving hand, we promote peace with each other for our world to understand. Love is truly the answer, a gift with graceful delight. We'll remain with hearts wide open and the clearest eyesight. Glory be to God as we connect with our earth, for this is the day that I am born and the day of your rebirth. And it says we are given the opportunity to renew within ourselves a feeling of rebirth upon the arrival of our babies and rediscover why we have come to earth, why we were chosen to represent the universe against the greatest of odds. We are reminded that we all have the same level playing field provided for us at birth, allowing us to promote peace and understanding with all beings on this planet.
Do you believe that it's a privilege for us to be here in these bodies?
I do. I do believe that it's a privilege.
Yeah. There's a lot of people, I didn't choose to be born, but some of us would say maybe perhaps we did choose that. But that's a whole other weird conversation.
That is a whole other conversation, yes.
It is. Well, Marcia, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is anything else that you'd like to say about all of this?
Just remind people to take the time to appreciate the little faces in children and nature. I think that got me through so much, just that connection with nature, just, the birds chirping and sitting in the grass and looking up at the sky. I mean, I regularly look up at the sky to look for the new portrait that God's painted for the day and share that with my grandchildren and my children regularly, And in fact, one evening, my younger grandson, when he was about 4, he was sitting in bed and he said, "Thank you, beautiful God, thank you, God, for the beautiful sky that you painted for us today," as he was falling asleep. And it just made my heart melt hearing him, because I regularly, and my older grandson at one point asked me if we could, we were talking about the sky and we were looking at the beautiful sun setting, and he said, "Mammy, do you think we can just drive until we see where it's setting?" And so I just drove him for the longest time, and I said, "No, we can't catch it, but we can appreciate its beauty." So
That sense of wonder,
yes,
that sense of wonder that sort of wears away as we go through our days.
Yes.
As we get older. There's a TV show called The Good Place. Has anybody seen it besides? Okay. But just to let you know, I started to watch it and I watched 3 episodes and went, and then I read something about it and I went back and I watched the whole thing, and it's hilarious and it's a real commentary on being human. And Ted, what's his name? Ted Danson,
Ted Danson, yeah.
is a character in that, and he's not he's not human. Let's just say that. I mean, he looks like a human, but he's an ethereal being. but he wants to be human. And the way he, especially towards the end, when he starts to get to have human experiences, the sense of awe that he has, this adult actor who can bring in that sense of awe of having that experience of some human thing for the first time is absolutely amazing.
Wow.
And because we tend to lose that, you know. And I love the whole thing for so many reasons. It's just so incredibly funny. But the part that stands out for me so much is when he has such a sense of awe, and there's something at the very end, and I'm thinking where he's getting something out of the freezer or something, is a TV dinner or something, and you know, whatever they call them now, and the sense of wonder and awe, and it was like, how did for an adult to be able to recapture that? Because it's so natural in little kids.
Yeah.
Because they've never seen it before.
Yes, very much
You
so.
know, and that sense of, can we see where the sun goes down, and Thank you very much, Marcia. I really
Thank
appreciate your
you.
coming tonight.
Thank you.
And do we have are these books available at the hub on Sundays, Patty?
No, but I'm happy to take some and sell them.
She's happy to take some and sell them. You should. Yeah. Okay, so autographed, no less. How many do you have in the car, Daniel? Okay. So next week, we have a really special treat. Cameron Lawson is going to do a musical event for us. Now, Cameron was my sound tech when we first started doing Wednesdays 7 years ago. That means he was like 15. So I have had the privilege of working with him, excuse me, for the last 7 years. He's been the primary audiovisual dude back there for all this time. And watching him, well, he's always been 42. I think he was born 42. But watching, and am I embarrassing you yet? Oh, darn. Okay. But anyway, watching, Cameron come into his own has been really an interesting experience. And so I asked him the other day, I said, would you be willing to do one of these nights? And he spends so much time doing the tech part of it that he's not doing his music as much. And of course, he does music with his family. But Cameron has also done a lot of music with the YOUers. He's aged out of YOU, and he said he really would like to get back into it a little bit. So he's going to put on a program all of his own. He's going to be up here by himself, and I am really, really looking forward to it. So I invite everyone to come in person, and and he's calling it "Finding Your Inner Voice," and then I added on a musical journey. So, and I think he's going to do things like, are you going to have us participate and sing in things too? Yes. We are. So join us for that. And now it is time for us to be able to, if you want to go, if you're comfortable here, you can stay, or you can go sit back down if you want. Okay. So it's time to support Spiritual Life Center. And if you are watching us online and want to support us, you can text us at SLC Love to 44321. And you can go to our website, click on the donate button. You can always mail an offering in. And if you want to continue to spread this message and say, hey, here's a Spiritual Life Center, look at what they do, you can click on like, subscribe, and whatever. I can never remember, share, whatever all those other things are, to keep this message going out and out and out, because it's a wonderful thing that we do here at Spiritual Life Center, and we want as many people as possible to know about it. And so for those of us here in the sanctuary, let us say our offering blessing together. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. Thank you, God.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Pouring down, your love is pouring down. Your love is pouring down. Your love is pouring down.
Hey, let us gather around and do our prayer for protection.
sky and the earth, woman and man, touch in the center with folded hands. This I know will be, this I know, where the love and the lover rest in each other, becoming the one, becoming one another. This I know will be, this I know, this I know will be, this I know. Where the sky and the earth, woman and man, touch in the center with folded hands. This I know will be, this I know, where the love and the lover rest in each other, beholding the one, holding one another. This I